So I was watching the Warrior Poet Society, the John Lovell show the other day, and they were talking about a relatively niche concept that conservatives have to understand. We have to get this in order to begin to reconstruct a society after the last century of deconstruction, culminating in the last 5 years of what I call the Great Awakening. In order to rebuild something resembling a healthy and thriving and vibrant, strong society, we have to be able to rebuild in wise and virtuous ways towards what is beautiful and true. And what they're talking about here, though it's incredibly niche in the gun world, whether or not you should open carry your gun or conceal your gun at all times, they actually, the argument for open carrying touches on this very thing. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it, and then we'll comment as we go. This is Unsafe Media. I'm Ryan Martin, and I help you respond to the ideas and the movements of our age with wisdom and with virtue. Here we go.
Yeah, and so I'll jump into the cons, but before we jump into the case for open carry, what do you feel when you see somebody walking around Lowe's or wherever you happen to be with a gun on their hip?
So I remember seeing a guy one time in the grocery store, and he's pushing his basket, and he's shopping, and he's got a 6-shooter on his thigh. And my first thought was, okay, if something's going down, there's another good guy in here.
Yeah.
Because the bad guy's not rolling around with his open carry
Yeah.
and shopping.
Right.
So I felt at ease when I saw it.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I can't help but feel like that guy's part of my tribe. I'm sorry, it makes me smile.
I want you to hear how he describes his tribe. If you're not in the gun world, if you're not in the gun community, you probably have a very different perception of the nature of that culture than is actually true. Listen to the way he describes that tribe.
Man, that's another dude willing to stand in the gap and protecting innocent lives should something crazy go down. That is honestly how I feel about it.
This is the way gun culture actually is. If you're not inside gun culture, you have to get this, is that the way that gun guys, gun nuts, if you will, view guns is not generally out of like a, ooh, man, thing go bang, make big noise. Rather, it is a love of the ability to protect those that you love. They think of the gun as a shield against evil. And so seeing somebody else as a part of your community is really seeing somebody else who is willing to, I love that phrase, stand in the gap.
For me, and audience won't like this very much, but I'll just be honest. There was a more smug part of me because I'm looking at this like podunk POS gun held in this sloppy, non-fitting nylon holster, kind of sagging off pants that are falling up with a plumber's crack in the back. And I'm not being mean. I'm just saying it seems to be that. It's like bad gun and bad equipment, improperly stored with no retention, so anyone can grab that junk. And I've kind of like...
Now, the major case against the open carrying, just for those who aren't really in on the topic, it's simply because tactically it is not the best way to carry. Here's a quick little video of some guy carrying, you can't really see here, but he is pocket carrying a pistol, and there's no retention, and the handle is hanging out, and the gentleman in the back is thinking, man, that several $100 gun sure would be nice in my hand as opposed to in his, and just runs out with it. The tactical case against open carrying, I think, is pretty airtight. It depends on where you are, what city you're in, the type of culture you're in. But that said, the case he's going to make for it, I think, not only applies to the gun culture, but applies to far more than gun culture. So I think you need to pay close attention.
So I want to go through and make this case. So very first thing I have is it sends a message to the general public that we are a country built on firearms ownership, and that's a really important thing.
And this is kind of where it's really gelling with me. I feel it's not so much a gun I am looking to hide as much as it is a conviction that I want to show.
So let's rewind the tape a few hundred years to the medieval ages when we had the ornament and the symbol seemed to be more important than the ornamented and the symbolized. The church was massive and beautiful, and I'm so thankful that we have these great old cathedrals. But at the same time, where we spent all this money in laying everything in gold and whatever, we maybe could have been spending more money on caring for the poor. I don't know. I haven't done any research into the allocation of funds in the Middle Ages, but that's certainly the impression you get is that the spending too much money on the ornamentation or the symbol and too much attention on that takes away from the authentic and the real. But then the pendulum swung all the way in the other direction where everything is drab and simple and complex, minimalistic. And rather, we don't externalize our commitments. The left does this extremely well, right? They put rainbows for this entire month. There will be rainbows vomited onto every single surface that you can possibly find them in public space. Thankfully, and I mean, maybe this year we're starting to see a little bit of pushback after a couple of actual successful boycotts. If you're not boycotting those companies, if you're not boycotting Target and Budweiser, what's wrong with you? Seriously, you want culture to be different, but you're going to subsidize culture not being different. You're going to subsidize the perversion of culture. Stop that. Okay. But that said, this idea that we would externalize our commitments in the way that we dress, that's huge. The idea that I would put my gun out so people could see, so that then they would understand I'm committed to protecting the innocent. That's a great idea. I'm not saying it's a tactically great idea. I'm not going to be open carrying anytime soon. But the fact that we're starting to think on that level is new for the conservative. We haven't done that in hundreds of years, and we need to get back to that. We need to get back to showing our internal commitments with our external ornamentation.
I'd like the idea that folks out there who don't realize just how prevalent guns are, all of a sudden they start seeing gun carriers everywhere, and they're forced to interact with us. And then so they see dads and, moms and, folks just blue collar and white collar, and everyone's walking around and everyone's got guns, and violence isn't happening from these people.
People who legally acquire guns are very unlikely to use those guns to commit crimes. And it's because most people who own guns are just normal guys who are willing to stand in the gap. And not only would you have people who are not in the gun world become more acclimated with the gun world, they might actually begin to consider carrying a gun. And as legal gun ownership, especially concealed handgun licenses, as those go up in an area, violent crime goes down. I would love to live in a country where the number of rapes go down precipitously year over year. Whenever you see in any county concealed handgun licenses go up, rapes go down. I want to see murder go down. Something like 10,000 black men are killed every single year. That's an epidemic. That is unbelievable. Those murders are primarily happening in areas where it is disproportionately difficult to get your hands on legal guns. Gun control is extremely high in those specific areas. So the only people who go and get guns are those who are already breaking the law. So the idea that the people will become more comfortable with guns, seeing good people wear guns, and then therefore not only more comfortable with those guys carrying guns, but maybe more interested in carrying guns themselves, would actually statistically decrease the chances of violent crime. That's it for today. My name is Ryan Martin, and this is Unsafe Media. If you haven't joined my Patreon yet, you probably also think that assault weapon is a meaningful category. It's not. Go Google it, find out what it means to be an assault weapon. Pick your jaw up off the floor, then join my Patreon. Like, share, subscribe, and until next time, trust God, keep your powder dry.